Hi everybody, welcome back to another video. Today's topic that I'm going to be going over is how I survived college without any money. Alrighty, so if you guys are interested, stay tuned and we're gonna get started. Alrighty, so to get started, I did attend a four-year university. I went to Adrian College, which is in Adrian, Michigan, about like 3,000 miles from here. So I did go to college out of state, so that'll come into play. I did go to community college first, so I did end up getting all of my generals done. I did like English, writing, creative writing. I took a Spanish class, I took a history class, so I did do some of my generals already before I had initially decided that I wanted to transfer to a four-year university, and that saved me like thousands of dollars. So I applied for financial aid. I got financial aid for my classes. They had like this BOGO thing. I don't remember, not like a buy one get one, but it was like something that the school called that they paid for, like, your classes that you signed up for. The only thing that I really had to pay for was like my school supplies and like my books. So that was something that was totally up to me. But as far as like paying for the tuition and all that other stuff, it was kind of already taken care of because of the bracket that I fell into, as far as being qualified to get financial aid. So I did go there for 2 years and I got about 42 credits before I decided to go to Adrian College. So then when I decided to go to Adrian College, it was like another big hump because I had no idea how much money I was gonna get, how much money I needed, and how much tuition was gonna cost. Also, it's out of state, so I had to pay for me to stay on campus. I couldn't stay off campus because they do require freshmen to be on campus. So I had to live on campus, I had to dorm, I had to get a food plan, like all this stuff that was just like, okay, what do we do now? So I had to do a lot of research and I had to, figure out what I was gonna get. Like academic wise, they do give academic scholarships. So I had to figure out how much I was gonna get for that and figure out like how much I was gonna owe at the end, like what credits, and then also like, what major I wanted to do because I took, 2 years at community college, so I really didn't know what major I wanted to do yet. So that was still like into play. I kind of had a little bit of an idea, but I was still kind of wishy-washy on what I wanted to get into. But as far as like money-wise, I went online. I went to, the FAFSA.com or .gov or whatever, filled out my application and did all that stuff. And at the time, my parents were not claiming me, so I was independent, but I was still living with my parents. So I still had to, put in all their information and everything in there. So I filled out the application. It went out and got sent, to the school that I wanted, which was Adrian College. And then a couple like weeks later, I believe they sent me, the little form that says, here's what you qualify for, here's what you get, and here's how much you owe. And I was like, I've never seen so many zeros before. I've never seen that many numbers before. I think for like the tuition for Adrian College is probably about like 40 grand, so like a little over 20 for the first semester and a little over 20 for the second semester, and that counts like everything, like your credits, which you should do anywhere between 12 to 15. I think they let you do as a full-time student, your on-campus housing, your food, and like all your supplies that you're gonna get, the library, the facilities, the technology fee, like all this stuff it had laid out for you. So I was just like looking at my parents like, what am I gonna do and how am I gonna pay for this? Because one, I had no college trust fund, so like it wasn't like I just had like a bulk ton of money that my parents put away for me in the bank that was like, here, use it when you're ready. No. And at that time, like I was trying to save money during my 2 years when I was going to community college. I was like, oh, I'll save money, I'll be able to do this and do that. Life gets in the way, new clothes, new shoes, like, it was just something that I didn't take seriously at the time that I wish I had. But I did qualify for, the standard unsubsidized and subsidized federal student loans. So with that into account, it really wasn't too bad. But I did have to do a lot of research, and I had to take out a couple other loans as well too in order for me to be able just to finished college. So I end up, you know, deciding that I want to go to college, and I'm filling out the application and I'm doing everything, and I'm trying to get all my finances in order. So the only thing that really did save me was that I was able to work, not for the school, because I know they do, you know, like work study and stuff where you work for the school to like, you know, pay for some of the tuition. I needed to have money that I can, you know, go towards school and towards like other finances that I had. So I was able to get, you know, my job that I was working with here at Red Lobster over there in Adrian. So it was a little bit easier for me to make like somewhat of a steady income, some type of money that was coming in that I could like put towards that. So, you know, I wasn't a broke college student. But anyway, so with that, it kind of like helped for my first semester to be able to like go, you know, have no type of like money issues. It wasn't until like the second or third year that I did get into a little bit of like, you know, that like money gambling type of issue, like, okay, I gotta take from here and put here, or do this and do that. And like in the summers when I would go home, I would try and work as much as I could. That way when I did go back to school, I had some type of money to be able to sustain me, you know, for the next 6 months that I was gonna be in school until I ended up coming home. But that first semester was really rough because I had to figure out, you know, how my finances were gonna work, how much money I was making, what I needed to buy, like, you know, groceries. They had dining hall, which was really nice, but, you know, cafeteria food as far as like home cooked meals weren't really the same. So I did have to take that into account as well too. But I think I spent most of my time just like going into the financial aid office. So I did have, you know, that relationship with one of the financial aid advisors. I would like email him all the time. I would call him all the time. I'd have meetings with him all the time. I'm like, what do I need to do to get, you know, this load off my back? Because each year it just kept like tacking on. Like, okay, the first year you only owed like $500. Okay, perfect, cool. With my loans and all this stuff, the only thing that I didn't know is that you qualify for different loans every year, like, you know, because it goes based off of your taxes. So every year that I was going to school, you know, you have to fill out a new FAFSA, you have to fill out a new financial aid form, you have to fill out new, you know, loan forms, and all this stuff kept tacking on. So by the time I got to like my third year, it was like, okay, you're kind of maxed out. I had already taken out a Parent Plus loan, which that goes on to my parents. They did have to like, you know, co-sign and do all that stuff. So I did get a loan for one of my years, which was great. You know, didn't really have to pay that much, and it wasn't really that much. So I knew that I was gonna be able to pay it back, obviously, when I graduated. But then I also had to take out a federal Perkins loan. So this one kind of came out of the school itself. So I had to apply, and it's really only for those that are like in financial hardship, that really, you know, can't qualify, can't get any co-signers, can't do this. I tried to look at private loans, you know, through like my bank. I was banking with Wells Fargo. The only thing that sucked was that there were no Wells Fargos within the vicinity that I was going to school. So it was like hard for me to like go in with my parents and do this and do that, you know, because I was like, oh, I have to go to school, I have to go to practice, I have to exams, like all this other stuff that I was kind of focused on. So I did try to make that relationship with the financial aid advisor. That way I could just alleviate a little bit of the stress. And he was very, very helpful. You know, he would give me applications. He would say like, well, what's going on? Like, what's your income? What's your parents' income? Like, and all these questions, I was just like, I don't know. But it's something that I needed to think about, and something that I needed to take into consideration. You know, you have to know your finances. You have to know what you're getting yourself into. You have to know how much money you actually have and will have at the end of all this. So coming into my third year was a little bit more of a hassle, because my first year I dormed, so it wasn't really that much. So like the on-campus housing was kind of like subpar. My second year, I moved into an apartment, so like that kind of like tacked on a little bit more, which is why I ended up having to pay a little bit more my second year. But we got through the second year, you know, with all the loans and like everything, and whatever was left, we were able to pay. You know, it wasn't like thousands and thousands of dollars. It maybe like came up to like $1,000 or something like that. But it was something that I was able to, you know, pay and help out with my parents to, you know, just have like that clean slate. So going into my senior year, it was kind of like everything. Like I took so many classes, I had so many labs that I had to pay for. The technology fees were ridiculous. I did move into another apartment, so I moved into a 4-bedroom apartment with, you know, a couple of my friends. So like even like those added expenses just kept like. And then I also had a car. I didn't mention, I also had a car that I had on campus, so that I also had to pay for the car permit, and like all this other stuff. So at the end of it, my third year, I think I owed like about $3,000. And although it may not seem like a lot to some people, it is a lot to my family because we have 8 kids. You know, my parents, my mom did like trade school. She went to school for dental assisting, but you know, it really wasn't like enough to be able to put your whole daughter through college. My dad didn't really go to college, so he was working at Red Lobster too. So he's, you know, really in like kind of like that mush that's like, well, I live paycheck to paycheck. So it was really hard to figure it out. But my whole last semester, I was in and out of the financial aid office, and I was talking to, you know, the advisor. I was like, what can I do? And it was more than 3,000 at the time. I think it was still like 10 or something like that. So I like literally, I would just go in there and I was like, what can I sign up for? What can I do? Like I need the help, and I know the help is out there. Like, you just have to be able to, you know, go in there and like demand it and search for it. I did a lot of research on my own online, and I tried to like just be like, do I qualify for this? Like, can I do this? Can I do that? Like, you know, my parents can't afford for me to go to college, and this is my last year and I have to graduate, and they wouldn't let me walk the stage, or they wouldn't give me my diploma until I paid. So I was like, all of my family's getting ready, we're planning, you know, it's my last year, I'm gonna graduate, everybody's coming to Michigan to see me graduate, and I'm like, and I still owe $3,000, no, it was like $10,000. So like from just going in and out, he qualified me for like the Pell Grant and like a couple other things that like I actually did qualify for. I don't really remember all the names. The Pell one is what, like the biggest one that I did remember, but there was a couple different like grants, like family assist grants. There was a couple different things that he was able to like maneuver and go and like figure out. I think just like seeing like my determination and coming in and out, and how like badly I needed the help and how badly I needed the money, kind of like gave me like that sympathy. So, you know, he did whatever he could, and we ended up getting it from like 10 to like 6, and I was like, great, like let's see like what more we can do, like what else we can, you know, figure out, what else can we find and stuff like that. So it was a very stressful year, on top of it being my senior year, you know, having to go through all of my classes and all like my senior classes and stuff like that. And like for my major, I ended up choosing biology, so I had labs, and you know, I had senior seminar and all this stuff. I was still skating, you know, I did 2 teams. So I did a synchronized figure skating team, and I also skated singles on our figure skating team. So I was juggling all that and trying to figure out this money, and it was so stressful. Like, I will never, ever, ever want to go through that ever again. So finally we ended up getting it down to $3,000, and I was like, okay, like that's something we could work with, something we could try and figure out, you know, to try and just grasp and like crumble it up and get it out of the way. We ended up like trying to reach out to family. They did like a GoFundMe for me, and like, you know, that raised about like $1,000, I think. And then we're just like, okay, like $2,000, like, you know, something. And so my dad ended up asking my great grandma, because, you know, she's probably the one that's more financially stable than the rest of my family. And he was just like, we're just gonna borrow the money, like we'll pay it back. And she was like very hesitant. She's like, I can't put that money on, you know, like my credit card and blah, 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 like the interest and blah. But at the end of the day, grandma ended up coming in for the win. She ended up loaning us the money. I ended up paying for it, and I walked across the stage and I got my diploma. Everybody was happy, and we're like, woo. So it was just a very stressful time in my life that I really do not ever want to relive. And just talking about it right now kind of brings back all the memories and all the stress. And I just remember like sitting in my room like, how can I get money? What can I sell? What can I give away? What can I do? So I do not wish that upon anybody. But now we're gonna get into a couple of like the tips and tricks that I have for getting through college. If you are just like me, you know, you don't really have any money that's put away, your parents didn't put any money for you, you didn't put any money away, you're kind of in like, you know, like that middle state, like you maybe can afford college, you can't afford college. Everybody can afford college. I'm pretty sure that there's money out there, you know. I found it, and I just had to be able to, you know, have like that determination, and just to be able to have like that mindset that like I'm gonna get it, I'm gonna go and do it for myself. And it's hard, especially for me going out of state to school. I was away from my family. I didn't have like my parents there walking me through it. Like, I literally had to overcome a lot and had to be able to go inside somewhere and be like, this is what I want, this is what I need, how can you help me, you know, type of thing. And it you know, brought out like that sense of like, you know, confidence in me, which I really admire about myself nowadays. But it was so stressful, and like I said, I don't wish that upon anybody. But yeah, that's how I survived. Just federal student loans and grants and the Parent Plus loan, and now I have a Perkins loan, so all that stuff. I graduated in 2016, it's 2020, it's 4 years, still paying it month to month. You know, they give you that like 6-month like deferment where you get to like get your P's and Q's in order before you have to pay it back. But I'm still paying back student loans. I'll probably still be paying back student loans because I'm gonna go back to school soon. So, you know, you can do it. You just have to be really determined, and you just have to do a lot of research and make sure that, you know, you understand like how to get the money and how you have to pay it back. Like that's another thing too. So that's my story. So now we're gonna switch over and get into like the tips and tricks on how to, you know, balance the money and the costs and stuff while you're going to college. All right, so a couple little like tips and tricks that I did, you know, have to learn and have to overcome. Like I said, you can probably tell throughout my story anyways, but it's just understanding how the financial aid works, you know, and how it works best for you. You do have to fill out your financial aid form online. So you go to your fafsa.gov, you have to, you know, make a profile and all this stuff. It is going to go either based off of your taxes or your parents' taxes, depending on if they claim you. Then obviously, you know, you're gonna have to put your parents' stuff. But if you claim independent, I claimed independent just because it worked better for, you know, my parents in our situation, and I was already working and they wanted, you know, me to get all this responsibility and all this stuff. So I claimed independent. Some people still don't, especially, you know, like if their first year going into college. So it will be based off of your IRS taxes. So make sure that you have those steadily ready in hand when you're filling out the form, because they will ask you questions. Nowadays, I think it's a little bit easier. When you go on your FAFSA, they'll have like a link to the IRS where you can like easily find all your stuff and it'll upload it, you know, by itself, and you really don't have to worry about it. I, however, you know, went to college in 2011. We didn't really have that type of option yet, so I did have to fill everything out, you know, by hand and all by myself. But my dad keeps files of all of our taxes and stuff, so it was easy to just be like, here, you know, putting everything together. But once you fill out your financial aid form, you have to look and you have to do your research on the college that you want to go to. Make sure that you're looking at what the costs are going to be, not just like tuition, but like, are you going to live on campus? Are you not going to live on campus? Do they have a food plan? Do they have a meal plan? Like, what are those expenses? And then as far as like moving in costs, there's so many different things. They have technology fees, like, you know, for the library if they do. Like, I have like a whole paper and a whole list of stuff that they had given me. So I know that you have to do your research in order to make sure that you have at least like that said number, you know. I want to say, depending on the school, it can be like, for when I went to college, it's about like 40, a little over 40 per year, you know, a little over 20 for the first semester, a little over 20 for the second semester. It's not always going to be the exact same, depending on what classes you take and depending on where you live and how your situation changes going through your years. But just make sure that you have all that said and done, and then once you finish your FAFSA, it gets sent to the school. They'll do, you know, all their calculations and everything to see like what you qualify for, what you don't qualify for, and how much you're gonna end up owing at the end of the year if you take out your federal subsidized and unsubsidized loans. Make sure you do your research on those. Obviously, I didn't do a lot of research on those, so I can't answer a lot of questions about that. But if you do, I will gladly do the research, and I will gladly make another video about that. But make sure you know everything about taking, you know, out these student loans and what, you know, that entails. Like, these are loans that will be hung over you for the rest of your life, depending on, you know, like what career you're gonna go into. Maybe not the rest of your life, how fast, you know, you can get them paid off. You want to get them paid off as soon as possible. But there are also other types of loans, like if your parents are willing to, you know, help you out if they didn't put money away like my parents did. There's called a Parent Plus loan. It does go underneath your parent. So whether they have a good credit score or not, they may need to get like a cosigner or something. I know my parents had to get cosigners for a lot of things just because my parents didn't really have credit. So it was like, well, how do we, you know, give the loan out to somebody who's not going to be able to repay it back? So you also want to make sure that between you, your parents, or even like other family members, make sure that you at least have like 1, 2, maybe 3 people that can either co-sign for you, co-sign for your parents, to be able to, you know, qualify and get those loans if you don't have good credit. If you do, woohoo, good for you, keep it up. You know, credit is going to be something that you're gonna have to take with you even in college and even after college. So you want to make sure that if you don't have credit, you're starting to build credit. You know, it's gonna help you qualify and get other things, you know, not just college. Like if you want to buy a house, if you want to buy a car, like those are going to be the things that they're going to be looking at. Also, besides the Parent Plus loan, I took out a federal Perkins loan, which is basically, it's from the college itself loaning me the money. So right now I do have to pay 2 separate payments. I do have to pay my regular federal student loans, but I also have to pay my loan from the college itself. So I do have kind of like 2 student loans that I'm paying for at the moment. And you know, whatever works for you, it works for me in this situation. Also, there are grants depending on what you qualify for. So just do your research, go online, you know, look up a whole bunch of stuff, look on the FAFSA website, look what they have available, look at the scholarships, just do whatever you can to just minimize that number and make sure you're doing your research on the college itself. That way you know how much you're gonna have to use. If you do have a job and you can work, they do have work study depending on the college. You'll have to do your research on that. And also they recommend you not having to have an outside job while you're going to school. I only did because I've always worked that way, you know. I've always had like 1 or 2 jobs and going to school full time and skating. So like I was used to being able to, you know, make everything work and stay organized that way. If you're not, you're gonna figure it out in your first year of college. It'll be okay. I ended up working as a server, which is great because, you know, I get the money right then and there with tips. The only thing that I didn't like was I didn't know that there was a different minimum wage in Michigan for servers. So like I said, do your research. Don't be like me and not do your research and try and like scramble and fiddle with everything. Have a plan. Make sure you sit down with your parents, sit down with, you know, anybody, family members and stuff, and talk it through and make sure that it's going to be something that you're going into but that you're going to be able to come out of. So I hope that helped. I hope you guys enjoyed my story and enjoyed a couple little tips and tricks on how I survived with no money, how you can probably survive with no money going into college. Alrighty guys, so I hope that helped. There's a couple tips and tricks on there. If you guys have any questions or comments, be sure to comment in the boxes below. Don't forget to like the video if you guys want to see more, and also subscribe so you can see some more up and coming videos that will be in the next weeks to come. Alrighty guys.